there's General Stoughton down at the Gunnell House, and there's Colonel Johnstone over at the other Gunnell House, and fine, get on your knees. And he took a rag, stuck it in the kid's mouth, bound his hands with telegraph wires, and said, be quiet or we'll blow your brains out. Mosby and about 6 men walked down to the Gunnell House. Bang, 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 to the butt of his pistol. You see a candlelight coming down the stairs. It's Lieutenant Simpson. Who is it? Oh, 5th New York Cavalry with orders for General Stoughton. Lieutenant Simpson opens the door. Boom! Mosby pushes his way in, puts a pistol at the guy's nose, and says, take me to him. So the lieutenant dutifully turns around. The little crowd goes upstairs to the 2nd floor. Now, there are several versions of this story. I will tell you the G-rated version. The G-rated version goes like this, and there had been a party that night. We all know that. There had been a party, and there were champagne bottles in the room. The story I'm going to tell you doesn't have a woman in it. I'm also going to assume that General Stoughton, although he was drunk out of his mind, he was passed out, face down, I'm going to assume that he had the presence of mind to put a nightshirt on. So the story is that Mosby, and they have candles and a lantern and whatnot, and he walks over to the general who's passed out on his bed, face down, and he pulls up the nightshirt, revealing his butt cheeks. And with his hand, smacks the general on his butt. Edwin Stoughton, who is a brigadier general, youngest brigadier in the Army, he wakes up and he says, how dare you smack me on my arse like that? What authority do you arrest? What authority do you do this? General Mosby lays down and he says, General, have you heard of Mosby? He says, yes. Have you caught that rascal? He says, no, but he's caught you. What authority do you arrest me? He says, General Stewart has control of the town. Now get up. Of course, Stewart wasn't anywhere near the town. Stoughton gets dressed. They all leave. To make a long story short, they leave town without firing a shot. Without firing a shot. With a general, 2 captains, a lieutenant, and the rest are enlisted men, and 58 horses. Without firing a shot. They leave town under the cannons, pass through the cavalry screen again. It is Ames who knows the countersign, gets out of town. They go all the way to Warrenton, and as they're passing, that's about 30 miles, 20 miles. As they're passing from Fairfax County to Prince William County at dawn the next morning, Mosby turns in the saddle and looks to the east and sees the sun rising and thinks to himself, I have done the impossible. No one's going to believe that I've done this. I will never have another day this great. And sure enough, he did it. It was the greatest thing that he ever did. By the next day, of course, the Federals, who had sent legions of soldiers looking for Mosby, didn't find him. The next day, somebody has to tell the president that a general's been captured out of his bed without firing a shot. So one of them goes in, probably Halleck, goes in to tell the president, Mr. President, that's bad news, one of our general, blah, blah, blah. And Lincoln says, I could make a general with a stroke of a pen, but I can't replace good horses. Father Abraham's good. When Lee hears about this, he's reported to have said, hurrah for Mosby, I wish I had 100 like him. I'll give you another piece of audacity about Mosby. And that is the night before a raid at Berryville. Now there was a 525 wagon train going from, let's see, I can't remember where exactly they were coming from, but they were heading to Winchester. And they were going overland, and they were near Berryville, Virginia. And they had stopped for the night along a creek. This train, if you can imagine, 525 wagons get strung out for miles. And of course, the teamsters who were driving these wagons and the soldiers, there were only a couple thousand soldiers with them, some cavalry and a lot of infantry, they pretty much bedded down for the night. It was just another long day and a string of long days, and very boring, very tedious. Mosby had found 350 men, which was his largest. He was going to attack the next morning. He brought a couple of artillery pieces with him, a couple of 12-pound Napoleon cannons. And that night, he says to John Munson, the guy who wrote this wonderful quote about Mosby, he says, "Munson, come with me." And so John Munson goes with Mosby, and they ride into the federal camps. Now, I told you earlier that you can't tell blue from gray at night, and I don't know what the heck he did to make this stuff disappear, but anyway, he did something. He and Munson ride into camp, and Munson asked a Yankee soldier to give him a light. "Friend, you got a match for me?" And he has a pipe. The Yankee lights the match, and as Munson has the pipe in his mouth, and the Union soldier is bringing the light over, it illuminates the Yankee's face. And he's thinking to himself, "Tomorrow morning, I will kill you." That blows the thing up. "Thank you, friend." And they just keep moving on. The next morning, Mosby, this is a great little story. Mosby has a line, he has 350 men. They move the horses to the rear. He has 350 men the night before who've camped. No campfires, no noise, no clicking of cups or any of that stuff. No noise, period. The next morning at dawn, and